Let's get this cranking up this morning. Morning. Let's go. Let's do this. It is a beautiful Saturday morning, and let's get some things rocking and rolling and just chat and hang out for a little bit. Let's bring your popcorn, bring yourself. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about it tonight or today. I'm over here. It's been a crazy day. Yeah, wild week actually. Doodly doodly do. Won't you jump in, share it on out? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And I have been dealing with some this past week, and it has been a crazy. I'm gonna jump on just for a little while and hang out, see who pops in, and let's get it crack a lacking. This was not planned, so I'm not expecting some massive turnout right now. So okay on that. Wow, I have way too many notifications going on right now. Let's exit out of that. How am I still in that?
Sorry, Gina.
How's it going, Melissa?
Hi, good morning. I was just speaking to Sharon about you. She said that you came in one of the rooms one time, and she said get his information. We're
Yeah.
trying to we're trying to embark on this Florida situation at
Mhm.
when they need the help. It's not going to be right now as far as the housing, but we're trying to zero in on a couple areas that may need the tiny homes and stuff like that. So that's kind of funny that you came up this morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, actually. And that's ironic, too, because I'm over here. My wife and I are about to go travel, and I just decided to throw the room up. And I'm just like, why not? And so, yeah, we're working on a project. What's up, Noel and Ju? Juju, how's it going? And so, one of the coolest things, actually, I'm working on a project right now in the planning phase there in Florida. And my build team actually specializes in emergency relief and disaster or emergency response and disaster relief. And
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so we took that experience and put it into the public side of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you talk about being able to build out different units and stuff. And if you could mute your mic for a second, the background noise is kind of loud. Thank you. But that's where with the like holding costs and a bunch of other stuff. So we're and guys, as you're jumping in, share it out really quick. This is like an absolute spontaneous room. I did not have any planning into with this morning. But within Florida, what we're doing, I mean, even just then, we're doing a double wide unit. It's going to be we're going to start out with 6 units on the property. It's got some wetland components to the property. But what we're doing is we're going to use helical pads and be able to for the foundation, which is very very strong, and they don't have the cure time. It's like for concrete, but we're using the helical pads or helical piles. Sorry, not pads. Yeah, instead of the concrete pads, and that's where right now with when it comes down to the speed of laying the foundation, we can get the foundation and the unit laid down literally the same day, and we can actually do those 10 at a time per day, if not within 48 hours. I like to say 48 hours because when I say like 10 per day, people get freaked out. They're like, no way. But but actually too, guys, Melissa, you can actually the link that's up top. You guys can actually go through there, check all the boxes that you want for like an ideal unit, and it'll jump over to my calendar. We can just do the brainstorming session. But that's where with like we're doing apartment complexes, we're doing what's up, Ryan and Rod? Man, and I'm telling you, we're like apartment complexes, single units, a short-term rental business model, corporate housing, even two independent living facilities for workforce housing, which is extremely helpful. But that's where you have so many different ways and even the combinations of stuff, even too. Like it's just a matter of what is the zoning, what's the utilities like, water, electric, sewers, or septic, depending on where it's at in the rural or city. And just going through all different layers of it too. And so it's absolutely a fantastic. Yeah, that's why I'm just really grateful. I just threw up the room out of nowhere. I'm like, let's just see what happens. But yeah, Melissa, there's a lot of that we can do, and especially in what part of Florida is the project in?
We're not really sure yet. I just was in a room yesterday with Doug and then
Oh yeah,
couple
McCarthy.
other people, and she hasn't zoned in on the areas yet. Or actually, she did. I wrote them down, but it's the hard hit areas. I'm not really sure. I'm not familiar with the whole Florida area, but she lives there, and she
Okay.
pinged us in. So I mean, we're talking about healing, the whole thing. You know, the counseling. That's what our group wants to do. Get in there and just have short term housing. You know, for the people
Yeah.
that are displaced, and you know the counseling, maybe a house full of clothes so people can come and, you know, gosh, we're lost, you know, when people get, there's Sharon, she can come in and speak a little bit because she
Okay.
knows a lot as well. But yeah, this is a great idea, and all it's a win-win, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just about, it's about helping them, and man, they're just, it's disaster, so good deal.
Well, Well, and that's where, and that's something too. I have a huge passion for mental health, about oriented, just developments regardless. Because a little bit about my story, my dad was murdered when I was 18, and it's been a cold case for over 11 years. And I, I say that from a place of healing, not as woe as me. Prior to his murder was actually, I contemplated suicide when I was 16, parents divorced when I was 10, and I'm the oldest of three. And we actually had an opportunity to repair our relationship before he was gone. And part of where, that, because he had a tree business for 20 years and I grew up in the trades. I worked with him since I was 11, and that's where I cut my teeth and learned a lot. Learned a lot of good and a lot of bad. Reverse engineered the bad, as we all know to do. And part of where, when it comes down to unpacking grief and regret, and that's part of what I've done over behind the scenes and working with business owners to help them keep their head in the game. And so when it comes down to developments, because I'm a product of an ILF, an independent living facility, but I say that because it was in direct relation to the flight plan and the council that was there at that time. And it's one crazy story in itself. But when it comes down to people hurting, like, that is my mission. Affordable housing is the bedrock of what I do, and but also too, fast luxury builds. But when it comes down to those who are displaced, those who need the counseling, those who, like, I mean, designing independent living facilities from container homes and it's one of my favorite things to do, because when it comes to laying out, like you talked about, like a clothes pantry, or a trade center, or to teach people a trade, even to like an internet cafe, an above ground pool, just different cool things that can create a community. Even too, to just, because especially with the helical piles, those are very, very strong. They're like 8 foot in the ground, and like over like foot and a half to 2 foot in diameter. And so those are things that don't play. And that's where, even too, with the foundation for the county ordinances, even if they require concrete pads or J bolts, we can absolutely make those accommodations. And that's where, it's just a matter of how we lay it out and have a great time with it, because it's all, regardless of what business model it is, especially for disaster relief, right? And even too for misplaced families. You got to think about the experience. Ryan's down there in the audience, and anybody who wants to come up on stage, just shoot an invite. I'm not like going to try and keep people down as far as just listening only, because these rooms, I like to have engagement. I don't like to have a classroom style. That stuff gets boring for me really quick, and so, just being honest. But that's where, like, being able to configure all the way back from, like, what do we want people to experience when they come on property, right? And like right now, that project we're working on, because we're working on the renderings right now. We'll do 2D, 3D, and 4D renderings, so that way the county can actually do approvals. And my build team's actually bringing on virtual reality experiences, which is going to be amazing. But we're working with the federal municipalities and local municipalities actually right now. I think we're in conversations with DeSantis to come down and to get the units into Florida, whether it's storage, or even if it's like 4 rooms per like 40-foot container, just to have a room, right? Something that's there, or even 3 or so, whatever the case is, and have a bathhouse, and be able to have those different types of units there, like porta potty type of layout, so it's that way it's really quick, coming in on wheels, and just whatever the case is. And we've got stuff for vertical, like for farming, and a bunch of other cool stuff as well. And so it's all about, like, what do you want to see come to pass, and how can we, because we've got funding and financing all lined up for whatever the case is. But usually when you're doing stuff with disaster relief, there's grants there, so that's pretty much taken care of. And but that's where it's being able to invest in the stuff that for yourself for long term as well. It's just we can get so creative with it. I can ramble all day. Hey Sharon, how's it going? Hey Juju, how's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going?
But Melissa, hopefully that kind of helps kind of paint the picture of what can be done, because there's no limitation to it. We just have to look at the county ordinances and go from there, because that's really the only thing that's holding it back. Because here's the thing, like say for instance, you want to do an independent living facility that's there in the middle of disaster relief, just in case something else happens. We can lay the foundation of the unit of a actual like 2 bedroom unit, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 1 bath unit right there, 10 per day, foundation and unit, boom, 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 all the way through.
I love it.
What's the square footage on those units?
One more time, Juju. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
What's the square footage on those units?
320 square foot for a 40-foot high cube. And we can always, we can do creative stuff with, like slapping two of them together for like a double wide, or we've got three together. We have an Atlas model as well. So it's a multifamily unit. That could be like a 3 bedroom, 2 bath type of deal layout. I mean, we can literally customize anything in there. But we have one model that's on wheels that with a solar off grid option that's attached to it. And hey, Muriel, thanks for coming in. Sorry, I've been overcoming some strep and some other this past week and a half. It's been, whew, well, I want to say hell on earth, but that ain't even close. But it feels like it. But yeah. So the square footage can, for one unit is 320 square foot, but we can do 20 footers too, which is 170 square foot. But the wild part, it's not even about the square footage; it's how you maximize the square footage. The usage of space. And what's amazing when people step inside of a unit, they are blown away at how spacious it feels. And that's what's so cool about it. Because normally, what the standard unit would kind of like 1 bedroom, full bath, shower, toilet and all that, sink and all that jazz. We can put a Jack and Jill sink in there too. Big old bedroom where it sleeps 2 to 3 folks, and even two, you've got a gorgeous lounge area. And I mean, we got one project right now that we're doing full on Pella windows all the way around it. And I mean, beautiful, like open, natural light, and on the luxury side of it. And so we're even doing single family. We're doing even single friggin' family homes, man. Like it's just amazing, especially for fast turnaround time. Especially with those who are struggling with labor issues right now. Whew, we all know that's an issue. And so, but yeah, it's crazy, man.
What's up, Mr. Jeremy? How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Rod, man. I am recovering from some ilkiness, man. That's why I haven't responded back to your email. I apologize, man. It's
No, no,
been
no, no worries, no worries, man. No worries, no worries. We're all good. No worries.
cool,
um,
baby.
we don't have to talk about that at all. For me, I'm just moving forward, man. I was
Heard that.
I noticed that these tiny homes, man, are really nice, pretty solid as far as their foundation and stuff like that too. From what I've seen, um, I'm actually trying to wanting to get into these mobile homes and stuff like that. Well, I'm getting into the mobile homes and I there's a tiny homes. I don't know if you would call it a park
Yeah,
or a subdivision or what you would actually call that thing. It's right across from the mobile home park that we have a property in at the moment, and I've
dude.
gone over there and looked at
Email
them. Of
me
course,
that property if you
fascinating.
get it under contract, because that right there will. Ooh, boy, that's a lot. We can have fun with that, especially with that container. It'll be like a modular home community, I guess is the technical term for it. That's right across the street, man. That thing will. That'll be fun. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. I get excited whenever we hear about that.
Nah, no worries. Like I said, I just went over there and looked at them once, and they just look really, really solid. Of course, yeah, you're talking about a lot of structures or construction of how you can actually have open windows and stuff like that, or whatever's going on. They're fascinating to me, especially more so the fact that they're so solid on the inside and the flooring and stuff like that. To me, and they even have like a more of a pitch roofing and
Yep.
stuff like that as well. And yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about them, but the time that I looked at them, they seem really fascinating to me. Um, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share some of that, man. And like I said, we're doing a property right across from the street from there.
Heck yeah. Well, and that's where, even too, kind of going back to what Melissa was and Sharon were that are involved with in Florida, man, they're hurricane proof. They'll withstand 150 mile an hour winds, just to be very clear on that. And that's where being able to stack them. If you go three high, you definitely want to go double wide on that, so that way you have structural integrity with it. But there's so many things that can be done that is just crazy, crazy. But really quick room reset for all the whopping a million people that are in here. You guys were just talking about tiny homes, or just brainstorming on that. So I'd love to go around the room, start with Melissa, Sharon, Juju, Rod, then Ryan. You want that order? Introduce yourself and just share with the room what y'all do, and let's just have some fun, just networking this morning. Melissa, I'm gonna pass the mic to you.
Hi there, Melissa Boosie here. I'm a investor, realtor. I care about people, and we want to embark on some tiny homes for the disaster in Florida. And we've created a little special team. And I had my notes, guys, but I apologize. I'm making breakfast and they're not at my reach. So, um, yes, we're looking forward to this. And you had some great information this morning. It was kind of God sent me to this room this morning. So nice talking to you all. I'm going to pass it over to Sharon because she's Mama Bear. Go ahead, Sharon.
Good morning. I'm in a place where it's too much background noise, so I came to the
You're
stage.
actually fine. I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, but I have them being quiet right now
Oh,
behind
gotcha.
me. See, she's calling me Mama Bear. Anyway, we're very much interested. Melissa is a collaboration, so I would like the details of your tiny houses. I think is another person that had presented them, but definitely would be helping a lot of people in distress and having the need to get some transitional housing as well as short term to long term right now.
Understood. Mr. Juju, over to you, my good sir. Going once. There we go.
Hey, how you doing, man? Yeah, I actually had somebody come in our room yesterday and talk about transitional housing and the funding for it and stuff. And tiny homes are like they've always been extremely interesting to me, just as far as like how to like how they can make such a small space seem so big. But I was wondering how does the funding aspect of it work? Like when you're looking at like if I purchase just a property, right, and I'm just trying to like I want to get a tiny home put on there. You know, I see banks don't really like to package like building a home on the land so much as they like just packaging like a home that's already there.
I'll circle back to that question. Just bookmark it really quick. We're going to bounce the mic over to Rod and then Ryan.
Hello, everybody, and yeah, thank you for allowing me to come to the stage, Jeremy. My name is Rod Moore, out of Anderson, South Carolina. Um, Real estate investor, wholesaler. So yeah, I'm just in that space. I do some plumbing and irrigation and stuff like that too, as well. And just transitioning from the plumbing and irrigation into the market of real estate more than anything. So yeah, that's the gist of me. My name's Rod again, out of Anderson, South Carolina. I'll pass it on to Ryan. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you, Jeremy. My name is Ryan Dodson, and our firm basically helps you take the mystery out of the real estate investing game. We help build communities one door at a time. We help you find the deal, get the deal, and fund the deal. So, been in the real estate space, the investing space since 2018, and just here to learn and here to help in any way that I can.
Heck yeah. And Juju, let me ask you this really quick. Was it the Forstons that were in there talking about the transitional housing?
I'm sorry I didn't get the last part of what you said.
No, it was Derek Forston and Otis Forston. Were those the ones that were jumping in there about, or was it Tanisha? Who was it that jumped in talking about the affordable housing or transitional housing?
That was Tanisha. She had
Okay, cool. Tanisha's awesome, man. And that's where, so we're working on a workforce housing development. It's going to be an apartment complex style build. And so when it comes down to the financing of it, I mean, there's tons and tons of companies that are out there. I have Tiny Home Funding LLC also. And so I work with over 120 lenders on just different facets. And so whether it's on the, getting it to go vertical, going to where we have even to refinancing on modular home communities as well. That's why I got really excited about when Rob brought up the neighborhood of the tiny homes, because part of where because it'll operate as a chattel loan or as a conventional or construction loan, depending on the status of the project, who's involved, and that's why it's a kind of a wild west to a degree. But when it comes down to those who are the lending institutions, or just even to just for those who are the providers, whether they could be hard money, whatever the case is, it could be literally all the way up to. I mean, we've got lenders in place that will do it as a new construction, that will also do it as just do it as new construction or ground up construction, or a conventional loan. And we've got lenders in place that'll help with, let's see. Oh, yeah, good question, Sharon. And so with the loan structure of it, it really depends on the property, and it too, of course, with utilities, what does that include? Like, what is that? How does that, incorporate into everything? And being able to really line out exactly where the utilities are going to be mapped out to. So being able to have it all those different variables into there is where we can structure it more than likely to a conventional or construction loan. But we've also got chattel loans, depending on if it's a mobile home park or what. It just depends. So there's lenders that where we can even do it to where it's an RV asset, because with it being on wheels, being able to have it in that category of asset, it's opens up for campgrounds and mobile home park financing. Because with the tiny homes, with the container homes, it's just a unit. So with it being on concrete beams or cinder blocks, whatever the case is, it all just depends on that property. But it is definitely doable and it happens every day. And does that help answer your question?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thanks, man.
You got it. And Miss Sharon, so the projected time was asked for the room. What's the projected time to building, finalize, tiny home completion, ready for move-in cycle? Depends on the project too. But say for one unit, I mean, we're building 10 units per week. And so when it comes down to your project, it's just really, financing on that side will take, depending on how small or large the project is, can take a couple of weeks or so. But once the funding is approved and clears, then I mean we're building 10 per week, and with the foundation, with using helical piles, we can have that down and like have a unit done and within 2 weeks max, right? And then have it delivered with it being installed there on the site. Excuse me, there on the site, within the same day. And so
So you're saying 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
we'll just say 3 weeks. We'll just say a month. A month to be there on site installed, and with it being, yeah, it's just a matter of the county approval. Sometimes they'll drag their feet, but yeah, we'll be able to have that. Within once the build time starts, with it being on ground ready, it'll be 2-3 weeks max. I like to be generous on that time, so when we're early, it makes it even that much better.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and that even goes back to your model too. Yeah, if you're wanting to have, like, say, 10 units that are double wide, we'll do, with it'll be 2 units, and so we'll crank out those in 2 weeks, and then have them installed that following week. Just depends on delivery time, and of course, logistics wise, making sure that coordinating with GC or even an electrician or a plumber, just to do the tie-ins, and that you'll get a VIN number with each unit, so it'll pass the normal deed process.
Well, thank you for telling me that.
You're welcome. What's going on, John? Introduce yourself to the room, my good sir. And I need to call you back. I've been earlier in the room. I was saying I've been still
All right,
overcoming that crud from this week.
plug, what's happening? Um, yeah, no, I love the conversation, and I'm a real estate agent in Coronado, San Diego area, San Diego County. We've talked about some bigger deals, but it's just coincidentally, I was with a guy who's active duty Navy SEAL, and he's getting ready to retire, and he just hit me up for some options. They talked about doing tiny homes, maybe mobile homes, manufactured, I guess they call them now. But back in the day when they did come with wheels on them, um, they were talking about if you take the wheels off and you attach it to the ground, then it becomes an attached asset. So for lending purposes, and then if you remove it from the ground without permission or whatever, it's a violation of the loan covenant, right? So I just thought I'd bring up that idea or that question maybe. Any comments on that? And because like normally I should have started off like when I think of tiny home, I think more of a fifth wheel or a more elaborate trailer, and that stuff is really regulated by ANSI specs rather than by HUD or whatever you call it for home building code. So that's a little more relaxed standard ANSI because it's mobile. Any comments along those lines and how to differentiate those and then maybe help my client? He's going to sell the family farm and he'll end up with about 2 million. And he's going to take that and try and do something where I'm going to try and persuade him to do, his own establishment. Maybe there's a property management component, and then he might have, 10, 20, or 30 tiny homes, Tennessee, North Carolina, who knows, and then try and have this as an ongoing business that feeds him cash flow wise. Hope that's not too much of a complicated question. Thanks.
I was about to ask you what is the question, because what you did say is factual, because when it comes to the loan, you have to keep it in that asset class, especially if with it, being, because with it being on a trailer, each container is going to be 20,000 pounds, right? And so you have to definitely keep it in that asset class. And also too, if you're planning to take it off the wheels, and that's something that is not talked about a lot. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because a lot of times people get great ideas, but they also forget about their due diligence on the back end. So with just to make sure I'm tracking, with what was the scenario again? One more time, John.
Well, just that, he's trying to come up with ideas, he and his wife, that once they sell the family farm and have the proceeds, what can he buy acreage wise? Maybe at least 2 acres, might be bigger. Maybe sounds small if you're going to do multiple tiny homes. But I think the lowest cost, this is really where I was going. Do you think that tiny homes would be the least cost and perhaps the best cash flow scenario for a retired military guy he'll have his military pension, but rather than trying to do it as a manufactured home park or something like that, that I would say is the next step up in terms of capital investment and, uh, highest and best use, in the sense that you'd have more units, more tiny homes than you would have manufactured homes. Let's ask that question, I guess.
Yeah, and so I'll just give you a scenario. I toured 200 acres here in Alabama 2 days ago, and so the plan is, if the deal goes through, yeah, we're going to be doing a short-term rental, and so the whole entire concept behind, so the container homes are definitely going to be the fastest, turnaround time, and depending on the land too, right? And so where he's at, where I'm at here in Alabama, we've got a literal county that has zero like restrictions on zoning, which is a freaking gold mine. And so part of any kind of land in that area, this was just a really good plot. Um, and so there's 130 acres that are tillable land, right? And then what we're going to do, that cropped contract is actually up this month. And so the plan behind it is, because there's no utilities all extended out through throughout the farmland, understandably, but the holding cost, right? Yeah, this is what Ryan and I were talking about the other day, and one of the biggest things is the holding cost on trying to develop something. And when it comes down to the fastest turnaround time, you got to think about pre-booking, right? Yeah, if you're going short-term rental or corporate housing, depends on what the zoning allowances will permit you to build. But that'll dictate a lot of the direction on it. However, rezoning is always an option, but you got to look at the comparative cost on that. But part of the biggest thing is you got to think about how you're going to cash flow, right? How you're going to cash flow it while it's being built, while you're doing development, because that's where it comes in real handy to be able to say, okay, we're going to do this development. Let's get renderings with it, And that's part of what my team's doing with that project down in Florida and in Texas. We're doing some really sick renderings. And Ryan saw some of the renderings the other day, and he'll tell you, man, they're pretty well in detail on exactly where and what goes where. And so being able to have a business plan in place, not just the infrastructure, is very key. And that's where then that's part of what my team loves. I love that my team can crank out the renderings really quick, but also too while putting a business model together to say, okay, we're going to market this bad boy while it's being built, so this way he has cash flow. That person has cash flow right away before, or well, has pre-booked money coming in. When the units land, people move in, and then that will the springboard forward the entire marketing plan with user generated content right out the gate, making our lives a whole lot easier, right? And being able to really help him out with that. Because the thing is, for him, with me having 2 million liquid on that, I would dedicate probably 250,000 to like land. Getting it developed if that's possible, and so that way within there you can even use it to where you're using some of those funds for the landscaping, depending on where the utilities are going to be extended out to or installed. And so that way you can measure out those costs and look at exactly, of course, I'm just throwing out 250,000 as a figure, but as an example, but being able to section that out and look at how many units can we put on there per the acreage and be able to make sure that, for the spacing and this all goes into the experience of what you want to create. I mean, I'm working with folks who are putting together, hunting resorts, right? And you definitely don't want to put them on, any kind of close where the hunting ground's going to be at because you want people to shoot in the other direction. And so, even though these are made of metal, man, sometimes bullets can go through. But hunting lodges and even to short-term rental outdoor retreats, right? And so, how can we include the nature into that experience and make that really, really awesome? I've got over 10 years in landscaping, and so for me, when it comes to creating these types of experiences for people, I like to include everything, consider everything, and look at what can be an asset and how can we approach it that way? Because that all of that being said goes right into what people are going to be paying for, right? And so if he's got 2 million liquid, then what you could easily do is buy maybe 2 to 5 acres or something just in that area and look at long term thinking backwards, reverse engineering it to the first step and saying how can we create the best experience in this area that's going to make sense for the area, but also too, even if it's like abstract for the area, it could be a getaway, a retreat. I think about, how are you going, like, depending on your business model, if it's short-term rental, corporate housing, however, how are you going to furnish it? How would that make sense? And also too, short-term rentals for depending on where that area is at, could be great positioning for it. That, and then even too, I mean, he could have one part short-term rental, one part corporate housing for contractors that come in, right? Contractors, traveling executives, traveling nurses, anybody who's coming into town that needs to stay there for 3 months. That's another option as well. So that way it not only self-funds itself, but also you have the anchoring of the corporate housing because those corporations will buy the contract yearly. And that way you have steady income because short-term rentals it's great, but also it has its own ebbs and flows, just like anything. So, does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, as soon as you mentioned hunting encampments or whatever, I had to do a PTR, and you'll see the called redneck high rise, right? Um,
Oh yeah.
the stackable manufactured homes. It's really hilarious. So you can put them on scaffolding and you can position them. Did you see the PTR?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I don't know why, but this looks like a favela in Colombia. And we definitely will make it to where it's not redneck wonder, but we definitely want to make sure it looks a little bit cleaner than that. But that is definitely that is absolutely one application to it. Are those are trailer homes on top of each other?
Yeah, yeah. They got trailers and they got scaffolding and they've got some anchoring going on. They have different views. Uh,
I was
you
about to
know,
say those look like containers. I'm like, holy crap, those are trailers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You just get a crane or a forklift to put them up on those little perches. It's kind of
Yeah,
cool. Maybe out here in California where you have earthquakes, it wouldn't be quite as easy, but got to bring a little levity to the discussion. Um, no,
that
you
is
gave
definitely
me,
entertaining.
yeah, you gave me, Jeremy, a really great uh, what would I say, profile, business plan, the distinction between the tiny houses. Um, and I think in our last conversation, I heard that state of California is going to perhaps start to recognize ADUs as, I'm sorry, tiny houses as ADUs.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
that's
don't
been in
know.
the works.
Yeah, yeah. So, and
Yeah,
I
we've got
happened
several
to,
projects in. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, let me cut you off.
oh, no, no. I just going to say I happened to meet the guy who's a developer who came up with the ADU concept and went to Sacramento and helped them write the legislation with one of the congressmen or senators and got it put into law. And of course, they were excited to try and get more density in California. A lot of people are offended by increased density, but we have a lot of vacant land that it's just not zoned. Like you said, it's not zoned for that, and to try and go in and change the master plan is very difficult, very challenging. But yeah, you helped me conceptualize where I need to counsel this veteran and his family on what the options might be, and then I'll contact you in the back channel and see maybe if we could help this guy out, because um, it's the lack of knowledge that people just don't have, and I have a special place in my heart for guys who served our country, and we're trying to get them affordable housing and think about all the other veterans who
Yep.
are on limited income that need the same
Well,
help, and they
and
can either
that's
be
the
in a tiny home or be a homeowner within a park or whatever. So there you go. Thanks.
and that's what's so crazy is that HUD is like HUD for the vets, and I'm so serious with that. And that's what's up, David, Remy, Jeremy. What's going on, guys? Should we have Shamik and I believe September? That's their name, I believe, but or their name. But one of the biggest things for HUD is the transitional living and workforce housing for the homeless vets, because that's one of the biggest. Like that's I've done mission work overseas, and I love that we have other. So here's the thing. Like I love mission work. I was a missionary for a year over in South America full time, and part of what breaks my heart, and this is actually goes right back into nonprofits, and I appreciate because I'm involved in projects over in Uyo State, Nigeria, and some other places too. And I have a heart for those who are hurting, period. But when our home backyard is neglected for overseas, that's where we need to balance certain things. But I say that with all to balance and clean it up is that like part of my project over in Nigeria is to help create an industry and and we're actually going to be putting in a circular ecosystem. Taking waste management to create building materials and actually help with creating affordable housing over there, sustainable housing, big time. But that's where here in our backyard, there's a lot of nonprofits that have the funds that being able to repurpose mission funds over into our own backyard to help our own homeless here in town. Because one of the that's the old saying. Our number one favor that we can do for other people is work on ourselves. And part of our own backyard is being able to help those who need it right now. And the vets, man, they've laid their life down. They really did. And one of the hardest things to see is that people suffering while other people are caring for other things. And like when I was overseas, and that's why when you do things overseas, sometimes it doesn't stick. And let's just be honest, because at the end of the day, when it comes to helping communities overseas, anyone that's overseas, you have to have boots on the ground, roots there to help with sustainability, and that's just a cold hard fact of it. And that's where when it comes down to leveraging HUD-VASH. I mean, imagine being able to here's a really cool play, John. Is that and I gave this idea to somebody else who and if I said their name, most folks would probably know it in the room. But I gave this idea to somebody, and they're like, "So what do I need you for?" I was like, "Well, I mean, you're welcome." But and that's where on the building side is where we come to play there. But imagine being able to being able to put together a whole entire real estate development that is paid for by private money, then back or even too funded by HUD-VASH, because HUD-VASH will fund pretty much everything, and they're sitting on land right now that they need a person who's got the vision, the gumption, and the grit, um, and also the business plan. You got to check all the boxes before you get approved. But biggest thing is as far as that, they'll fund the whole project and be able to help you, like be able to bring in those who are going to rent because they'll get vouchers, et cetera, just like Section 8 and other things. Of course, there's different terminology with it, but when it comes down to being able to erect the entire thing built up, then guess what? Someone else can come in and purchase it from you, with it being funded by HUD-VASH and those other programs. And that's where, it's just the infrastructure. Like that's part of like these apartment complexes. Like here, I'll actually do a PTR with mine really fast, and that way you guys can kind of see the 3D rendering of a 30 unit apartment complex. And that was a phone call. All right, go ahead and drop this here. And hang on one second. Man, this PTR does not let me show much at all. All right, there we go. And PTR. But that's where being able to build out an apartment complex and be able to grow, and be able to have that filled in with with vets, those who need that help. And here's the thing, when it comes down to you have transitional living, workforce housing, and then subsidized rent, right? And that's I live in Huntsville, Alabama, and so like I talked to the senior planner of the housing authority, and they have a $250,000 budget per unit available right now. And that's where, like, right now, where I'm working with some nonprofits to put together plans and structure and be able to say, hey, this is how, when you enter in, this is what you're going to see, right? And that's where, like kind of going back to with, John, kind of bringing back what Sharon and Melissa and I were talking about earlier, is that you're able to put together a whole experience that's not only going to help people enjoy themselves, but also get their dignity back. That's a complete game changer, because I don't know about you, man, but I've gone to a ton of different, like halfway houses and stuff that look like crack houses. And one of the biggest things for me, and I'm sitting back wondering, I'm like, how in God's name first of all, I asked myself, the obvious dumb question, like, how in the world can this be, and how can no one care about it? It goes back to the numbers. But when you're paying $65K for, a container unit that can be built out full one bedroom, have its own kitchenette, its own like living space, and then have it next to each other, have it as a motel, have it classified as a motel, or even as a commercial land, which is easy to do. Of course, depending on who you're going to serve, you have to make sure you have, like, within restrictions wise, as far as who is going to be, who is going to be actually, going to be there in that facility. You have to work backwards from that, because depending on the grants and et cetera, they may have to be in a certain distance of like schools or the city or whatever the case is. But man, I kid you not. Like, shoot, there's a county here, David down here down in the audience. You guys, shout out to Land MBA, and if he stays in the audience, I'm going to. What? Who's calling me right now? Hang on one second. Hold on one segundo. Oh, how can I help? Texting. All right, next. Come back. So one of the biggest things, shout out to David down there, Land MBA. I'm gonna send him an invite to come on stage to shout himself out. And Remy, what's up, man? And all you guys down in the audience, just come up on stage, man. Let's just stop being like you guys over here just give me the side eye in the classroom, like, hey, how's it going? But so. And Remy, I swear, if you don't get up here, man, we're gonna have some problems. I love you, brother. Just kidding. So, one of the biggest things, being able to find the land and be able to do what you need to do, man. You guys, it's so creative what we can do, and it's a matter of being able to have that right business plan in place and be able to grow. It's got nothing to do with the infrastructure. Well, it has a lot to do with the infrastructure, but also too the majority of it is your business plan, who you're going to serve, and working backwards from there. And that's where there's so much potential and so much power in that too. Because when I was talking to the senior planner of the housing authority here in Huntsville, Alabama, because Huntsville, Alabama doesn't play. Like, I don't know if you guys have y'all done your research on Huntsville, Alabama, but man, I kid you not, there's a lot of restrictions, especially being an industrial tech city, um, and it's especially with the development, and it's crazy how things can be bottlenecked by some of the dumbest things like semantics and verbiage. Which we all know verbiage is anything. If you've gone through and gotten kicked in the teeth by anything, you know that verbiage is everything. But that goes back into keeping it consistent in the business plan, keep it consistent with the systems, to be able to systematize and productize. But really quick, let's do a really quick room reset for all 8 of us that are in here. I think now 7, but let's clear the room out really quick, guys, and just be able to get some let folks know that we're talking about this stuff. And just, I'm gonna do a cowboy hat and get in here. But David and James, if you guys both can unmic, David first, James second, if you can unmic and just introduce yourselves to everyone that's in the room. And this will be David's. I don't know if this is David's first time promoting himself on the app, but guys, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, thanks for inviting me up. Um, hey, everybody. My name is David Van Steenkist. I am a land investor. I own two companies, one called Mile High Rural Land. The other one is Land MBA. And one is the one that I basically buy and sell rural vacant land. And the other one, I teach people how to do it, Land MBA. Very interested in this space, just starting to really learn about it because my primary model has been uh, buying land way below market value and just flipping it. Also subdividing it and adding value by subdividing it, but still flipping the raw dirt. Um, and But I want to learn how to buy and hold some of this land and do something with tiny home type communities and creating cash flow. I actually have a property that I'm is going to be my first one to start to develop is in southern Colorado. Got about 42 acres down there, and a lot of things we can do with that property. So, if anybody would like to know more or learn more about, hey, how do you find land for 20, 30, 40 cents on the dollar, hit me up.
And you guys, David is the real deal. We had a meeting the other day, or was it a week and a half ago? I think maybe a week
Something
ago.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's blurring together, but man, it's this guy's a real deal, y'all. Yeah, so I'm gonna pass the mic over to James real quick.
Yes, good morning. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Great space. Relatively new to real estate, and I am a social worker by training, and also live in New York City. And New York City is an interesting place to be currently, and several of the topics that you guys touch upon. I just have my mind spinning. I'm also a veteran, also work with Hadvash veterans. And also, just the other day, someone approached me about there's a arena being built and looking at short-term rentals in that space. And she has a couple of properties there, and there's current construction going on out there as well. But also, looking at the opportunity zone space as well here in New York State, which has over 500 opportunity zones, both in rural and urban and suburban communities, and just thinking about just available um, land that may be applicable for tiny homes as well. Then New York City is also a right to shelter state. I mean, city, and of late, Governor Albert in Texas has been sending immigrants up here. And at last count, I believe there are about 13,000 that has arrived. And the shelter basically cannot shelter system cannot they're overcapacitated right now. So just a lot of interesting things that's been discussed, and certainly that with as someone who is thinking about this real estate space and just various options and opportunities this year, even semiconductor company just recently announced also that they're going to build a facility out here in up north. So just a whole lot of just options and opportunities, out there. And certainly, want to learn more and just see exactly what's feasible. especially for someone who is not in the real estate space, want to step into real estate space, utilizing just a host of other tax options and available options out there, but willing to learn how to basically move the process forward with the team that I'm assembling. So with that, I'll turn the mic back over to you, Jeremy. And David, definitely I'll reach out to you as well. Thank you.
I was about to say that exact same thing, James and David. David, remember when I was telling you about the Opportunity Zone Fund and all that, like OZ Easy and Easy Do It and all that? Um, James is in the program, I believe, and man, it is just yeah, there's so much opportunity. It's crazy. And so I can't wait for the two of you to connect, man. It's just kind of you'll just both text me when I'll have a meeting and let me know the ideas that just fly off left and right. Let's see, we've got Delisha and also Mr. Banks down there. I don't know if his real name or not, but you guys, man, I am. Let's see, man, this is a great morning. It's been one busy week, and what's so nuts is with just the projects that are going on all over the United States. One of the most encouraging things for me is that municipalities and just folks who are really, really stepping up on exactly where where they acknowledge the problems. And that's one of the biggest things. That's why I'm so adamant on container homes and just anything that when it comes to affordable housing, because even though we've got so many different options and alternatives, it's when you look at the specs, when you look at the numbers, when you look at the turnaround times and how getting a foundation down. I mean, imagine having a whole unit rent ready within a week and a half, and being able to once the build's done, it's there, it's arrived, it's all checked off, and you have people waiting to go in and get the keys or whatever, if you put a keypad on it or whatever the case is, and be able to really just be able to make it happen. And there are, we got a rock star in the house, Miss Tanisha Greenberg up on stage, and so one of the biggest things too, guys, is just it's all goes down to your creativity and how can we not only make a difference, make a change, but also do it in a way that the numbers make sense. Because let's be real, at the end of the day, all of this is cool and all, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure the numbers work. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is that it's gonna take place to where you're able to really dig in, and be at a loss if you're not careful, and having a solid plan in place, like whether it's having giving the programs a heads up that that you have a new facility in development, and that way they're going to be able to. That way, they're. I do. Janisha just jumped in, but one of the biggest things is being able to say, hey, look, we are going to have this development done. We're going to have it ready to go and be rent ready in the next month and a half, and give the programs a heads up. And two, when it comes to short-term rentals, I always say have a direct booking site in place, because it's very tempting to just throw it on Airbnb or Verbo or any of the other platforms. But if you don't own your data, what's going to happen is you are not going to know who your customers are. And so yeah, all of it goes back to how do you get ready from the get go, from the jump, and get everything in place. So that way you're not having to be overwhelmed and backtracking the whole entire project backlogs. Peace means to make order, in the Greek. And so when it comes down to preparing ahead of time, you're gonna have a whole lot more peace of mind when you're prepared ahead of time instead of having to prepare on the spot. Tanisha, if you can on mic, introduce yourself to everybody in the room. We got some heavy hitters in here, and definitely want you to be able to make yourself known and what in the world that you do.
Hey, good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Doing well.
Good, good. Well, good morning to everyone on the platform and everyone in the audience. My name is Miss Tanisha Edwards. Sorry I'm late. Have a fundraiser today, so doing multiple things. However, I am a serial entrepreneur. I do own a nonprofit as well, with the businesses that I do have. And Mr. Jeremy is right. You have to have a plan in place. Um, My plan started years ago, of course, as far as opening transitional housing or creating a transitional housing program, as well as working with the state, having licensed homes. And I also do Airbnbs with my homes as well. So the whole kicker is when Jeremy talks about these tiny homes, they're very well needed. Okay. Um, the population has grew within the communities as far as homelessness goes. So with it, that being said, you have a lot of agencies, you have a lot of shelters that are looking for places for these people to go to, because number one is they don't have apartments. They can't do apartments. Apartments are too expensive, right? And so you can take these tiny homes, what Mr. Jeremy is talking about. Sorry, my signal may be going in and out, but bear with me, you guys. You can take these tiny homes and you can turn them into a community. Okay. And you can build an affordable community within, if you got a piece of land. Now, I don't know if some of you guys are real estate investors on here. I don't know if some of you have land already in the mix, but you can take that land and you can put all these tiny homes there, and you don't have to go and have a whole 6 or 7 acres. You can have two, at least 3 acres, and go and put a certain amount of homes sitting there, and you can have these to where they're rented out to our aged out population, because we have those ones that are aging out from the state. You can also rent those out to our veterans. They can also be rented out to our women of domestic violence, the ones that have the children. That's the population that's becoming very popular now, and being more homeless on the streets than ever before. And you can also set that up with the agencies in order to make that happen. And when Jeremy talked about making or announcing that that project is becoming available, he's absolutely correct. You can announce it and say, coming soon. This is what I do to all of my mentees that I teach in class in order to open these type of tiny or transitional housing programs, and have them looking forward to a community that's coming or going to be opening soon. So the investment of getting these tiny homes is going to be profitable. Okay. And you don't have to go through the state. It's just mainly private pay. And we'll just give you an example. I house over 57 people in my houses. Okay, and I have a series of homes, residentials, and I also do mobile homes as well. So not that I'm looking outside of the box, because you can look outside of the box of just not just single family homes. You can also do tiny homes, mobile homes, etc., etc. The tiny homes are a little bit less expensive. They're not as expensive as the mobile homes are now. We've noticed that there is a jump and an increase in the cost on that. However, you can take that and create these tiny homes into a program. Okay, sitting on a land, you can have a grocery store, you can have a garden. I mean, the sky's the limit. Okay, and that can be profitable as far as you guys opening up a community. This is like you're changing the lifestyle of some people that don't have anywhere to go, but when they come into your community and when you're providing for them to go, that's the benefit. You're making an impact. You're changing their lifestyle. You're giving them something to look forward to. You're giving them hope. Okay. So he's absolutely correct on everything that he's stating. I do a nonprofit as well. With my nonprofit, it pushes services to my people that are house. So that's why we talk about the services are so crucial, because you want to not only house them, you want to provide a community that's got additional resources and services that are included. Okay. So that's just a little bit about myself. I own kind of like a whole bunch of things. I have a home health company. I have a Clear Lab. I have we also have Toro Fleet. I have a nonprofit. We have the homes that are licensed, and as well as the unlicensed homes. And we work with the city. We also work with the state. Okay. I sit on the board for all different types of agencies, such as the Veterans Program. I'm a board member for the Texas Veterans Commission, as well as United Way. I sit on the board for the Reentry Program. So, yeah, I do a lot. So, my bio is just pretty much gives the whole shebang of everything, which I couldn't put everything in my bio. I'm also a commercial loan officer now. So, what makes that a benefit on my end is I can go out and get the properties, and you can roll these properties, what you're getting with Mr. Jeremy, into your business. So that's a little bit about myself this morning. I didn't want to take up too much time, but that's me. And so I'll yield my mic.
Well, and I'm not going to let you just leave off that you work with how many football teams and other company, like how many organizations. Like, girl, stop playing. Like, she is being so modest. And also, Tanisha, you need to connect with David, who's here on the stage. That's all he does is land, land and subdividing and all of that. I don't know if you caught it before you jumped in the room, but man, oh man, oh man, there's a lot of things that, with everyone that's on stage, that it is so powerful. And that's where anyone who's, as ideas are firing off, you guys, you can hit the link at the very top, and that's the application page. You just go through and check all the boxes as far as like an ideal unit, and then that way we can just jump on a brainstorming call. No strings attached, no obligation to do anything. We just literally brainstorm. And I've been told that I need to start charging for that here soon. So um, but being able to brainstorm and really flesh out what would be a good plan of attack is so daggum key. And that's where, man, Tanisha's got so much in the works where man, I'm telling you, it's amazing to, excuse me for hawking loogies up on the mic, but it's been amazing to see, all the people that are, in the industry of helping not just those who are in affordable housing, for those who are homeless, but also those who are hurting, in general. Like for me, like my heart is to help ease the pain of those who are going through it, because I've been there, and my own story, and that's where for me, like I want to make it impossible for someone not to be helped. And almost to the point to where if you are ignoring the things after you see the information, it's deliberate, because there is zero reason for the things not to be executed. A lot of folks are like, "Well, I ain't got the money for it." Well, that's called OPM. Let's actually find a way to where you stay in the deal and be able to, where you're able to really dig in and knock it out. Because at the end of the day, well, the way, and this may sound cold and harsh, but at the end of the day, if you see something and you don't step up, God's showing you something for a reason, and there's a reason why you were seeing it and nobody else. And that is so important to remember. And I have to keep that in mind too, because a lot of times I get my feelings, I get my emotions and all that. Well, man, I'm just so tired all the time. Well, also too, so is everybody else. But there's a lot that is there to be said when it comes down to what we can do with who we know and what we have in our hands. It's all about being resourceful, and no one's saying to step outside of like what you're comfortable doing, because at the end of the day, we all have our own life and what we need to do and what we can do with what we have in our hands. But also too, it's amazing what can be done when tapping into other people. And I mean, shoot, I've got a deal on my desk right now that we're going to bring a whole bunch of housing and short-term rental and corporate housing to one specific area. I darn sure don't get the liquid for it, but I mean, I know someone who does, and also too that wants just to be a silent partner. Walla Walla Bing Bang. And it's like, hey, at the end of the day, there's literally nothing stopping you from except the person that looks you dead smack in the face in the mirror every morning. And and it goes back to for what the scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge, man. And the more that you can understand, and the more that you can connect the dots, I mean, it's just a massive win-win-win all the way around. Man, we've got Quentin, we've got Tanya, James, Ashley. Welcome to the room. It's a little bit smaller of a room. I had zero planning on doing it today. James is back in the room, and but man, it's just a sporadic Saturday morning. We're just hanging out, chatting. So, if you guys, I really want y'all to come up on stage. If you have an idea, a scenario you want to see if it would work, let's just throw it out, because that's what these rooms are all about. There's no such thing as a dumb question. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask and try to figure out yourself. That's where the old saying is that the number one life hack is to get a mentor, because sooner or later you're going to find out how expensive it was to not have one. So Oh man, it's a little thing called stupid tax, and it never it doesn't take any prisoners whatsoever. So I'm gonna shoot you guys an invite to come on stage. You are welcome to say no to it. No pressure at all. I just like to have conversation going because I like to, if I'm the one talking the majority of the time, I get bored. It's I talk to myself plenty of times throughout the day, and so it is all gravy. And so you guys come up on stage. James, what's up, man?
Yeah, hey Jeremy, is it could um tiny homes be converted into dorms, college dorms?
I mean, yeah, you can easily do those. It just depends on how you want to structure the dorms. Yeah, because you got to think about dorms is pretty much an apartment complex. It's just relabeled into dorms, but dorms are usually when you have two people in one room, and I mean, shoot, we could easily do that. But even what's even more interesting is that even making the dorm experience more luxurious with a single container, have their own bathroom and everything in there. But even to add to, we've actually designed things where we've had four bedrooms in one unit for an RV model, and it had those bad boys on wheels, loft style. One thing which is actually makes it fantastic, and that actually made it work really well. We actually added a solar attachment to it with a Bassett system. With a switch, so that way it has the option to go in between utilities, or even to when say the power shuts down, whoop, switch it on, you're good to go. But yeah, the dorms are super easy. It's just a matter of the space and being able to design that, and then that way you can just have them built out and stacked on top of each other if you want to increase density. So you got maybe 3 or 4 acres or so, and you want to build out a whole complex. We can design it to where there's two bedrooms in there on each side, and have a bathroom, a kitchenette in there, a smaller lounge area. Do the square footage on it. That's easy done. We do that weekly.
Well, the reason why I asked is because there's a local college that has an interest in building student dorms, and they have the available land to do so, as well. And because all the students and as well as faculty, commute back and forth, and so while you were speaking, the I remember, and just a matter of fact, on Wednesday, I'll be attending a breakfast with the president and others, on campus, and so just wanted to plug that in. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. And that's easy student housing. That's the apartment complex can be used for workforce housing, corporate housing, student housing, all of that. And Remy, I'm trying to get you up on stage. I accepted the invite and it's not letting me. I don't know what's going on, man. There we go. Here, try now. Let's see if it works. So interesting. Hey, are you guys seeing Remy up on stage? Because I've sent him like 4 invites and that's not letting me, it's not registering him come up on
Negative.
stage. So we're right.
Negative. I don't see him up here.
That's so weird. Hey, Remy, try to jump back out and jump back in. I was trying to get you up on stage earlier. The clubhouse is acting weird. A little glitch. That is so interesting. Um, there we go. Let's see. I have no idea what's going on with it. It's acting a little funny. We'll see if it comes back in. But yeah, the infrastructure can be used for student housing. It can be used for just so many different things, man. And that's where that's even too on the financing side. It'll be registered as student housing, and that's what's so crazy about it. See you later, David. But yeah, man, it's where you guys hit up David for the land. All right, let's try it now. Let's see what we got. Remy, come on. Why is it not bringing you up? That is so weird. Because I have sent you like 15 invites. I'm gonna try and send you another one. 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm trying. I just sent you like 6 invites, man. I don't know what's going on with Clubhouse. Oh goodness gracious. No, man. Yeah, I've just sent you. Let me try and send you like 15 invites from my side. All right, let's try from there. Try it again. I'm gonna send you like 4 to see if it works. But but yeah, no, I don't know what's going on with it. But regardless, let me try and is it popping up on your side, Remy? Let me know if it's acting a little funny. But one of the biggest things, James, is that when you're talking with him, just kind of pull the comparables of the rentals there, because I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, what you can tell them is that you can do a single level, and we can do. I mean, you can just have it to where it's all right there. One of the biggest things that's complementary is, and I'll wrap back around my point. I don't know what's going on, Remy. It's being really bizarre. And I like you up in my rooms, man. I want to be able to chat with you, man. I love your energy too. That's why I'm getting a little irritated at Clubhouse. You know, piss me off a little bit. But one of the biggest things for the student housing is actually adding in either short-term rental in there, because parents love to come and visit for for the graduation. And so, one of the biggest things for that, even to add on to it, is saying, hey, look, we have zero holding cost, pretty much zero, because of the helical piles that we use for the foundation. We get those installed that day, and have, yeah, I mean, I was sharing earlier, we can get 10 foundations and 10 units installed every 48 hours, and which is crazy. And that's where being able to add even short-term rental into the entire development, man, I'm telling you, you talk about, adding a whole entire, I mean, capacity to the unit, man, or the development. It's crazy. The parents, the traveling coaches, right? Teams, right? Teams that are coming in, opposing teams. Like, let's just play both sides of the spectrum, right? I know we have our loyalty for the football teams, but man, if you got the units there for the other team to stay, I mean, my God, bro, like, you talk about having 30 units all booked out, for the week, and that's another crazy idea. And okay, so that's so. Hey, Delisha, did they give you issues when you were trying to come up on stage? And now, Remy, I don't, I ain't gonna let it fly, man. The clubhouse is being a little butthead right today. But let me know on that deletion in the chat. But one of the whoa, we got Morton in the house. That is some crazy hair. But one of the most interesting things when it comes down to those types of developments with student housing is that where, think outside of like 2 degrees, 3 degrees more, because you've got the teams, you've got the parents, you've got the traveling professionals who are coming in and out for whatever event that's going to happen for that month or whatever the case is. Now, especially when the games hit, oh my God, man! You talk about football, baseball, volleyball, soccer, and technically football, but we ain't gonna go there. But because they play with your feet. But one of the biggest things for that is I got a request from that is so interesting. But one of the biggest things for that type of development, just kind of get creative, because that's where they're thinking as well. Yeah, it's great for the students, but also too, what keeps parents from attending, and also too, really kind of, I mean, not really truly, but it's a bummer when it comes down to students picking schools. Is where can we really dig in and actually combine different stuff to help them actually supplement. All right, Morton, let's see if that brings you up on stage. And oh, what the heck? Okay, I don't know, that's a bit weird. But that's where you can really dig in and get creative when it comes down to how can you incorporate not just their families, the teams, and all the staff. Because that's part of that conversation that you should have with them, James. Is that the foundation's going to be laid quickly? We don't have to wait for concrete to cure for that. I mean, for the units themselves, maybe for like sidewalks and driveways and all that kind of stuff, depending on what you do. But asphalt, I mean, asphalt can be poured down, but also too sidewalks at a minimal after the units are there. And that's give that maybe a week or two to cure, and just coordinate that logistically with the development, and then that way it's within a month and a half you're done. And of course, asphalt, concrete shortage and all that kind of stuff that's happening right now. Kind of backlog some stuff. All right, Raymond, let's see if this works now. All right, I accepted it and should bring you up on stage, man. Double check, Remy, your the most recent app that you have downloaded on your phone. See if if it needs an update as well, if the problem persists. So I brought Morton and Delisha up on stage with no problems. So I'm not sure what's going on, brother. But and yeah, James came up too. So I don't know. That's weird. So give it a shot, man. See if the app's on the most recent update. It's probably what it is. But yeah, guys, it's really neat. There's so many things that you can incorporate that into that development, James. And so just bring the foundation topic to there, and then also too expand it and say, hey, look, we're going to be also having housing for the parents and the teams. That's all you got to say, and then watch their eyes go just big as saucers. I mean, seriously. So hopefully that helped, James. Let me know if did I hit the nail on the head for you?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Definitely I will.
Awesome sauce, man.
For the college, for areas that have multiple colleges, it'd be good too for family and friends weekends. They don't usually run on the same, but I was just listening. That would be a good time to offer that other than hotels as well.
Oh gosh, yeah, that is so true. Um, that is so weird, Remy. I'm doing everything I can, man. I promise. I'm trying. I'm trying. I guess Clubhouse doesn't want us to be great this morning. I have no idea what's going on, man. But really quick room reset, guys. We're talking about tiny homes and how there's practically zero holding costs when it comes to foundations and being able to be able to build out quick development. And what's unique is I was talking to a guy who does boutique hotels earlier this past week, and it's actually really neat because when it comes down to being able to create really good, I mean amazing looking different luxury stays at a fast pace. And that's what's so wild is that when it comes down to having a unique stay, we're I got a business partner. We're putting together trucker stays. And please don't let your brain split in half on that because truckers need loving too, right? And in a professional way, not the way that probably stereotypical I just came to mind. But so y'all forgive my crass sarcasm, and I am country as it gets. But when it comes down to just the different demographics, so we're building out a premium stay, and man, I mean those are going to be definitely way more expensive than a $65,000 standard unit. But when it comes down to the financing and the funding on that, man, you talk about, I mean, oh my goodness gracious, it is going to be crazy. But it's, when you're able to think backwards, right? Think backwards. We all have a business, right? We all, think about who is our customer avatar. We all think about who are we going to serve. Like say, for instance, like for a landscaping company, right? If you're going to do flower bed installations, think about who you're like, what you're going to offer, and then also work backwards on who would best that would serve, right? And so that way, you know exactly who's going to be able to have the means to pay for it and be able to book that out, and I mean, shoot, we've got on this trucker stay, we've pre-sold 3 million of the $35 million development, and that's what's so crazy about it. So, anyways, I was going to say I said a room reset and went on a rabbit trail, but the guys were talking about affordable housing, how we can do crazy cool amounts of development and just different arenas and lanes. So with that being said, Delisha, Morton, James, if you can go ahead on mic, Delisha first, Morton second, James third. Just introduce yourself to the room. If you just know that I am a professional troll, so if you go down that route, I'll go tit for tat for you, and you'll be booted on out. So go ahead, Delisha. Go ahead and on mic, introduce yourself, and we'll go ahead and go straight to Morton and James.
Good morning. Well, is it good morning? This thing's 12 o'clock. So good afternoon. So my name is Delicia. I live in Tampa. I'm a short-term rental operator. And my question is this. So what is the true definition of a tiny home? Because I see the container homes and I see like the built tiny homes, but then you have a lot of people now that take those sheds that you go to a place that says like we sell sheds and it's pretty big, and they'll put walls up. They'll put walls and installation and the floors and the whole nine, and then they'll say that's a tiny home, and I'm like, well, I guess, but is that really a tiny home, or is it like a bootleg tiny home, or does a tiny home
Definitely,
matter as long as it's just
definitely.
tiny?
Oh yeah, no, just definitely ghetto rig, that's for sure. And those actually aren't considered that. But really quick though, for conservation of time, let's go ahead and just do the introductions first, and then we'll circle back around to your questions really quick. So Delisha, we'll bookmark that. But I want to, if you can introduce yourself, and then Morton, if you can introduce yourself, just 30-second intro, and then that way we'll boomerang back to the questions because I definitely want to dig into that because that is a Delisha, that's a question I have to address almost weekly. But Delisha, if you can, just go ahead and reintroduce yourself, and then we'll bounce it over to Morton really quick, and then James.
Oh, okay. So my name is Delicia. I live in Tampa, Florida, and I am a short-term rental operator, um, educator as well. But I'm kind of going more into the space of doing real estate investing now because I hate arbitrage now. So that's it.
Morton, over to you, my good sir.
Hello, guys and girls. I just see the title in the room, so I thought I just needed to jump in and check out what this was. I'm from Norway, and think I had the biggest factory producing module houses and tiny houses here in Norway for a few years ago, and was absolutely the first. And I also have developed some projects with tiny houses with about quite many tiny houses in the spot. So I was curious about the rooms. That's why I'm here, actually.
Well, good to have you here, man, and definitely, definitely being across the pond as well, man. That's we can definitely dig into some really cool conversations there. James, over to you, my good sir.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear. I think I know who the Jameses is. Oh,
Oh yeah, what's going on, Jeremy? You doing all
what's
right?
up, big dog? Go ahead and
Not
introduce
much,
yourself,
man.
my good sir.
My name is James Jackson, real estate investor, short-term rental operator, and company builder, doing some cool stuff with Jeremy with a lot of his projects. He's a part of a company that we're building now, and just excited to be in the room.
And you guys, the company I was telling you guys about. That where I'm going to be part owner. Well, I am part owner in that, and now with that is James is my counterpart on that. And so James, when I was telling you about in Arkansas, Ryan is right here on stage. And also too, there's quite a few different things we've been discussing here. I'm pretty sure you've been tuning in, man. And you guys, Block Company is the building company that is by default the one that has the background in emergency response and disaster relief, and you talk about being able to keep up when the crap hits the fan. This is the team. And so, Delisha, really quick to kind of boomerang back over to your question, the sheds that are get repurposed into that, like say the shells of like the Home Depot shells and a bunch of that stuff. The biggest trade off for that is for they're not hurricane proof. They're more than likely stick builds usually. And then what happens is they're absolutely jerry rigged, as we like to say it. You know, the duct tape together because hurricane hits that bad boy, it is gone. Like I mean, just like it's like a fart in the wind. But part of the biggest thing is too is that a lot of county ordinances will not permit those to be dwelling units, like the DMV area, and so they can't be a repurposed shed into a dwelling unit. Some county ordinances will allow that, but at the end of the day, they will not allow that as the actual dwelling unit. They won't even allow some utilities to go to it in some areas. But the biggest thing is the time. You have to put the insulation in, you have to do the studs, you got to do the whole nine, the sheetrock, all that stuff. Some people are cool with it, but for me, I like to pay for it and then just get it out and be done. I mean, gone. I mean, straight out the window and be able to, because at the end of the day, I'm going to, a lot of folks love to have that pride factor of like saying, I did it. But at the end of the day, I like to have that pride factor of saying, I served. Because at the end of the day, that's where when it comes down to repurposing those sheds or anything like that, that a lot of folks are like, oh, I can get a shed from Home Depot or Lowe's, and that's cool and all. But also, too, it's going to take you 3 to 4 months to even get things done right. And two, you have to go through inspection. The inspection part sucks. Oh my gosh, it sucks so bad because appraisers and inspectors, man, feel like they're gods right now since COVID, and a lot of times they will not approve it, or you have to go back and do some really dumb stuff, some really petty things almost, and a lot of that can really result into delays and making it darn near impossible for it to be profitable to a degree unless they have those means to be able to make it worth it. Because my biggest thing is, if we're putting it in the backyard, right, like a mother-in-law suite, like how are you going to counterbalance that? That say, after you actually do those customizations to it personally, how are you going to balance that out with rent roll, right? Or how are you going to write that off, or like whatever the case is? Because even if they buy it at 10, maybe 12 grand or whatever, they're going to put, probably, five, eight, 10, $15,000 into it, not including their time and their labor. So like a lot of times people don't account for that. They only account for material. But if you're a contractor, I mean, that's your job, right? Take how much you get paid per hour. You're putting that time into it. And that's the amount that you're losing and doing it yourself because no one else is going to pay you to do that. And that's the cost that really pushes it up. I mean, some folks get paid, 45 to $75 an hour, $100 an hour to do that kind of stuff, and not that kind of stuff, but just in their jobs in general. So you got to think about really realistically, what kind of cost are you putting into that to actually develop it and actually grow it, right? And that's where at the end of the day, it's cool, but I mean, it sounds fantastic. It makes for great Pinterest content, but at the end of the day, how are you having it pay for yourself? Because how are you having it pay for itself? Because at the end of the day, that's the real number that matters. Because a lot of times folks like, yeah, I did it for lesser than whatever, but okay, great. Have you broke even on it? Have you made money from it? More than likely, 9 times out of 10 is a no, unless they have a crew or like a contracting crew that's in place to do that. But that's definitely not the DIY route. More than likely, most people take with it. Delisha, you still there? Delisha, that made me feel like an episode of Castaway where I'm screaming Wilson. But Juju, I just want to make sure I saw you on mic. Do you want to add to that?
No, I didn't on mic. I had a phone call come in.
No worries. Delisha, you there?
Yeah, I don't know what's Clubhouse is like not doing what it's supposed to do. So, are tiny homes ever zoned residential? Because just from the little research I've done, I'm sure I'm not completely correct. Most people here in Tampa that do tiny homes or even build a tiny home community, they do it on lots that are zoned for mobile homes, and then they just put the wheels under the tiny home so it qualifies for a mobile home, and they leave it as is. I've never seen a standalone tiny home because I've assumed that maybe it's true that it has to be on a lot that's zoned. Um, what the heck for a mobile home? So am I right or wrong?
You're both. And so with that though, so again, it goes back to county ordinances, right? It goes back to what is that plot zone for? In Florida's a different animal. So there's a space and there's a plot in Florida right now that we're actually doing the renderings and planning for. James, I'm gonna bounce that over to the team this coming week once we finalize everything. But that whole plot and property, we're putting it on a slab. And so with it, I believe it's zoned residential or it may be zoned commercial. So we're going to do it as a motel. But that's where, when it comes down to residential zoning in Florida, it's a different animal. And so we have to look at what is the square footage minimum, right? And so that's where we look at what is the square footage minimum for this plot for a permanent dwelling. Because if we're doing a permanent dwelling as a residential, then there's going to be, like, if it's a single family home, right? We definitely, if it's going to be like, if we're going for like the minimal amount of square footage, it may be 450 and maybe 600 square foot, depending on that county in Florida. Because I'm working on stuff all the way from Miami to Fort Pierce and different areas, and so they all have their different restrictions and their different requirements that would be deemed as a tiny home. Yeah, mobile home, like having a container home on wheels is going to be RV asset class, or even to a mobile home. Sorry, container home. I just said mobile home. I think I said container home. But the container home on wheels is really good for RV asset classes for campgrounds, but also too for mobile home parks. And that's what's so interesting is that when it comes down to the residential side of it, we have to look at, like, here's the rendering, here's the architectural overlay, and also too, there's some ways where we can do a modular to bypass modular status with that unit to bypass engineering. And so, because a lot of times with the residential, there's an inspection process, right? And then also too, making sure that with the utilities, with the plumbing, with the sewage, or if it's septic or city sewage, um, then more than likely Florida is going to be city water, so, or just sort of well water like up in the north. But that's where it gets pretty interesting because we have relationships in Florida right now that we're not only that we have, but also that we're working to improve. And so, and that's where James and I, we were always talking about this kind of stuff behind the scenes, because at the end of the day, we want to see people helped. We don't want them to have go without homes because the county's just being a butthead, right? And so that's where we go through and look at the weird restrictions, the weird requirements, because every county and every city is their own version of Gotham. And that's where we look at what is the square footage minimums requirements for that side of it, what is the foundation requirements for that residential home, and then that's where we can look at, based on that square footage, we can configure units to go up to, oh my gosh, up to 1,500 square foot, 2,000 square foot. It wouldn't be a tiny home at that point. It would just be a single family residence made out of containers as the walls and the infrastructure. So that way it's a different material structure, is what that is. And that's part of what Rob was talking about, the other, when he was in here earlier, is that with the container homes in those neighborhoods, that's where we look at with those ordinances. I mean, even too, like we've got a project up in Illinois that we're working on closing right now for an RV park across the road. He owns the land and he wants to do single family homes, and that's where, commercial is definitely the easiest route with that, with the least amount of resistance with it. But based on those county ordinances and what they will approve, that's where we go to them, like to the municipality, and say, hey, look, here's the business plan, here's the overlay, here's the model, and also too, we're going to be bringing in some really cool tour ability to help the municipalities see, because a lot of municipalities are still very analog, and so helping them see it from ground up and then getting that stamp of approval, then that's where it's all downhill from there. So it really goes back on the square footage minimums, foundation requirements, and utilities on it. Which foundation wise we can, helical piles. I mean, that just makes things so much easier too. And they're also too. There's a lot of trade off with that as well, as far as like security, because those things are stronger than an ox. Does that help? Can I answer your question, Alicia?
Yes. So you would say that it's maybe easier to get a um, previous mobile home, move all the mobile homes out, and then just put like a bunch of container homes that were on top of the little slots that were where mobile homes already existed, versus going to buy a big piece of land and then having to drop the plans and submit it to the city and see if they're going to approve it for a bunch of the different individual residential tiny homes.
I love your kids, but I mean, it's definitely gonna have a path of
Take
least
them.
resistance for sure. Yeah, and that's gonna be. I mean, it really just, it's not a matter of like what's better. Honestly, it's a matter of like what's gonna be the fastest path, like where Florida is at right now. Because some folks may want to just buy that, hold it, get it, hang out for a little bit, because their cash out refi play may be freaking amazing. Yeah, James, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think a lot of investors in your area, they are bypassing local codes for speed. A lot of times when you're buying these container homes and these tiny homes, you're trying to get your product out in the market, the short-term rental market, as fast as you can. I'm dealing with a process where I'm trying to get container homes approved in my city that has never really even done modular homes. And I've been working on the process for 3 months, and I probably got another 3 to 5 months just to get the full approval. So a lot of people are putting these on wheels, on helical pile foundations, or just creative foundations, just to be able to get their product out quickly. Yes, you could go the traditional route, get a plan, get a plot of land, and really dig and do everything. But it may take you a year or more to get it fully approved, because in Birmingham, you have to start at the neighborhood association level and then work up to the city, the county. I mean, that takes a long time to get done. So
So I just put in the chat. It's Carter. Silence. So there's a place here. It's called the Escape. I think it's the Escape Community. It's in Thinona, Sass. It's kind of like right out on the outskirts of Tampa. They pretty much did what I'm talking about. They went and got some land. I believe it was already zoned mobile home, and then they just put a bunch of little tiny homes on there, and they put wheels under it so it could be, consider tiny homes, and they're so pretty. So he's selling them as houses. I don't know if you can cash out refi on a tiny home. If you can, that's cool. But it's a really cool community, and I wanted to duplicate that because it's so cute. And housing here is an issue. A lot of people are moving out of Tampa to like Spring Hill Riverview, Apollo Beach, because it's becoming unaffordable to live here. Like a lot of families are downsizing from their houses or apartments to mobile homes because they can't afford the rent.
Well, and that's part of it too, is that with, even if you get, like, say for instance, you buy, a residential plot of land, you can get it rezoned, easily. But the biggest thing is that, yeah, absolutely, finding land that's zoned for, for mobile home park, for campgrounds, for RV parks, all of that jazz, easily putting them on wheels. I mean, shoot, our model, actually, the one that we built out that has like the 4 bedroom loft area in it, that's not a typical one, but a lot of people like that, just because they can have that for their kids and be able to have that very minimalistic, luxury minimalism. Big, 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 big thing happening right now. Yeah, because people are downsizing and they want to invest into their lifestyle, and that's where, being able to put them on wheels and be able to have that, or even, I mean, dude, even cinder blocks. My gosh, I mean, it's so simple, and that's where, being able to have them out there. I'm actually pulling up the site really quick, but I need to be able to spell it right though. There we go, Escape Tampa, not the Escape, but however you think about the escape room. But that's where, when you're able to find the easiest way, the easiest route. Oh yeah, so that's different. He put that on. Yeah, so those don't look like they're on. Are they on wheels? It looks like there's a deck in front of it, covering up the wheels. That's usually what we do. Any kind of RV asset that we have, we always make sure that people have it to where, they can go out and purchase them, but have a skirt around it. So that way it covers up the wheels, easy to move and simple to do. And yep, he's got storage on there too, and that's part of it. Having a office on there as well, and that's where, even too, like, we've got that 30 unit developments happening over in Texas, and being able to have it to where, you have a front office with that, have some self storage on there as well. But that's, yeah, I mean, you can put them on wheels and have them as a residence, on there. It wouldn't be a single family home though; it'd be a mobile home residence. So I think that's the biggest misnomer there, is that having them as a mobile home residence, that absolutely can be done, and that's a very, very quick thing to execute. We were doing them at, what, like, James, I think, what was it, like 80? No, that was with the solar attachment too, and that's actually one of the things we added on there, having a solar capability added onto it. So with the switch, just in case the power goes out, right? And those are like 88K, in and out, be done, and be able to have them out on the market. Very simple to do while you're, like that 3D rendering he has on the website, or coming soon. Literally like that, but even to one up it, to be able to have it to where, where you're able to have an animated 4D rendering. So that way it makes it even that much more visual, and even to be able to book out even faster, because he's got a raised roof on some of them, and we can make that easily and have that delivered in a simple time. I mean, just, land on site really quickly as well. Yeah, these are beautiful, and that's something that can be done so simple too. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, he had those built. Yeah, some of them are on wheels, and I see the, let's see, yeah, he's got the units outside. So yeah, he has a deck on the front of them, and that's easily. We actually have a project we're setting out where we can have the deck attached to it, so that way it folds up on delivery, folds down when it's there, and be able to have that as an adjustment as well. Yeah, these are great, and that's exactly, yeah. Yep, I see the trailer right there at the back with the air conditioning unit and the electrical. So yeah, these are easily to be done, and these are some of the projects that we have going on right now in some other states, and be able to make that a very, very easy solution. And I mean, golly, yeah, it's very quick and easy, simple to do.
So are those basic containers with, I guess, an extra build on the out, like a shell on the outside to make it look the way it does?
Well, those look like they're built a little bit differently. Those look like stick builds on a trailer. But what we can do as far as the containers, we can add shiplap to the outside and be able to have it to where it doesn't look containery, so that way it has a nice industrial farmhouse look like this does. Shiplap or tongue and groove, whichever you want to do. And to answer Gina's question in the chat, let's see. Yeah, so 88,000 was the with the solar attachment to it. James, I think, what was it? The difference was like 75 or so, roughly, without it.
Yeah, without the solar, it was like 70. It was actually like 72, 73.
Yeah, I think it was with the trailer is what it bumped it up to like 88, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that was 73 with the solar, and then it was with the trailer because we make sure that whenever we're having it on a trailer, we'll actually make sure that you purchase it separately, so that way it's titled in your name, so that because that title transfer process can be a nightmare at times. So if we take off the solar portion of it, it was right around 75, 78 ish or so, because those trailers are like 13K each or so, roughly. And James, correct me wherever I'm wrong on that,
No,
because I
I
do
mean,
not have.
you're absolutely right. I mean, you spot on with those numbers.
Oh, sweet. Okay, I was totally guessing off of memory, and right now my memory is kind of like, but but Alicia, does that help answer your question though, as far as like the flexibility with it?
Oh, yes, two more questions. So, is
All
the real
right.
estate market inflating the prices on tiny homes, or is the demand in itself within that industry kind of just based off of the demand in that industry? And then two, if a person is wanting to get started, and let's say for example
Well, hold on,
somebody
hold
has
on.
their own
What? Hold
community,
on. One question at a time. My brain can only process one at a time right now. So when you said inflating the price based on
like
what?
is the real estate market, because there is a lack of housing, does that affect the tiny home prices, or does it has nothing to do with?
Oh God, no. No, we actually go against it. That's what makes it so appealing.
Really?
Yeah, because all of our stuff comes with electric, plumbing, all of it ready to go. So that way, when it arrives on site, you can plug it in like a Febreze air freshener. Plug it in, plug it in.
Wait, so how does it work with the sewer?
Oh, so that's where it was earlier. We talked about city or cities sewage, or you do a septic tank.
And I guess like a garbage truck or a septic, like whatever comes every now and then.
Yep, poop truck. Yep, good old poop truck comes on in, just on rotation. We should, James, we should start a sewage company called the Poopers Cooper.
That's disgusting, but but okay. So if a person wanted to build out a tiny home community here, what would your advice be? Where do you start? And are you going to a lender to get some type of, is there some special financing or loans that are out there for stuff like this? Like, where are you starting?
Well, I mean, starting with the link up above and book a time with me. But no, we go through all of that. Working backwards. If it's going to be classified as a mobile home park, lending away, absolutely, we've got those people in place. Whether private or retail money, all of that covered, because that's the biggest thing. Like when it comes to the Tiny Home Plug LLC, like it's completely vertically integrated. All the way to tiny home funding, and that's where with because James, he's the other part of the team on the building side of it. That's where we really, really work to make sure you get the term rates that you're wanting. Also, too, with the lender, that's not going to be a jacktard on stuff, and then they actually understand the development, because not every lender is built the same. That is a fact. And so, we work backwards with that. And that's what I was saying earlier, is that with your business model, the renderings, getting the approvals, the engineering, all that stuff goes into play and getting better approval odds for the lenders. Whomever it is, if it's somebody that's coming in, a silent partner to fund that whole deal, they give you terms on that. Or if we go through, hang on, we gotta make sure she's got a phone call. But that's where we go through and make sure we have everything covered on that. Alicia, you there? Just make sure that you're catching this. Delisha, Delisha.
If
But
I could touch on the lending side from what my experience is too, Jeremy.
yeah, hang on one second. I want to make sure she got that though.
She
And that way,
He had a call come in, Jeremy. That's what that
yeah, I
icon.
know. Yeah, I just want to make sure she caught that. But it'll be on the replays too. But yeah, going back into all of that, making sure that when we have all those right pieces in place, that's where we go through and make sure that we have that to present to the right lender. But James, go ahead and jump in, then we'll bounce over to Ryan real quick.
No, I didn't have anything to say. Ryan, you can go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say the what I've noticed over the past few years of being in the lending space and helping investors, particularly in the real estate investment field, it's tiny home and dealing with this concept with storage containers is not a readily accepted situation yet. So it's good to know, Jeremy, that you have the plug for that, because as we've talked before, I know for a fact that in the next 10 years, this is going to be more commonplace. And so to get ahead of it and really put in the plug for affordable housing and being creative with the solution, I think is beneficial for all that are listening.
Amen to that, man. And that's what's so, and that was the biggest hindrance with a lot of projects, over the past, 6 months. And that's where I was like, you know what, if folks aren't going to do it, then I am. And I'm going to make sure that we have every single step ordered in place. So that way, when we're starting down a path, we're not going to go face plant straight into a dead end. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I like my teeth and the ones that I have, and I don't like losing them, especially if like it's like that guy who's going on a pogo stick. He's like, I'm gonna go higher, and whoom, bam, right there on the driveway. And it's like, man, and that's the suckiest part about it, is that where being able to have, not just for like the initial build, but also too, like, see that trucker stay, man, that's going to be a 300 unit development, and that's going to build into 150 different builds, double stack, triple stack, you name it. But that's where it's like, man, we definitely have the right people in place to make sure that we, chomp at the bits and go through that. And even too, it's even crazier is that with, there's so many unique plays with it too. Opening it up for private investors, plot by plot, plot by plot. Sorry, my voice cracked. But plot by plot, to be able to say, hey, look, we're going to be able to knock this out, and say, hey, look, we're going to be able to even too down the road refinance on different things that are modular, that are mobile home assets, etc., and see where can we bring it into specific categories that are already available, but also too with lenders that are going to take the risk on it and do it because it is fairly fresh, and be able to, hey, look, with these numbers, I'm going to make sure that you freaking keep, I'm going to keep your feet to the fire, because at the end of the day, if we're doing a balloon payment on 30 or plus more units, man, we're going to make sure you're going to hit your payments and be sustainable. Because at the end of the day, I'm not about to have my name dragged through the mud on stuff either. I'm going to make sure that you've got every single nook and cranny covered. Because at the end of the day, you have got to have a good game plan in place and a business plan. And that's one of the biggest things these lenders are looking for. And that's part of why it's so important to have everything thought through, so that way you're not having to, face plant at the end of the day, because the lender's going to come back and say, well, I don't know about all this, man. There's no systems in place. You don't have a marketing plan in place. Who are you actually going to serve? What's the game plan for the first 90 days? How are you going to make your payments? Because, at the end of the day, Ryan, that's what we were talking about, the holding costs. I mean, the banks still want their money. The lenders still want their money, even though you're not making it. And so being able to counterbalance that with letters of intent, with, pre-booking revenue, with, getting contracts together, all of this stuff happens so fast that where it's like circus de soleil almost, dadgummit. And where you want to be able to, be able to have all that in place, because who cares if you have a concept? No one's going to give you money if you don't have your next steps lined out. Period. Flat out. Period.
That's a fact. Well stated.
Man, all gas, no brakes, man. Oh, and also, Ryan, side note, the guy I was telling you about that was from Arkansas. Not, yeah, from Arkansas. That's James right here. James, you can't remember. I told him not to quote me on it, but what part of Arkansas did you say you went to school at? I can't remember.
Yeah, so if you're from Arkansas, I went to Henderson State, which isn't too far from Camden at all. I think it's about 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm ready through and through.
Nice. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting opportunity that was sourced. I've got some people that are pretty connected into the city there,
Mm-hmm.
and Jeremy had some conversations offline, and so yesterday we had a very productive meeting with them, and I think right now we're starting the process, so it'll be cool to get integrated and meet you, James.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I probably would love to get down there too. I'm actually planning on going to I don't know how familiar you are with the Battle of the Ravine, but I plan on getting out that way around end of November to go to that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I may be able to take a trip down to Camden and check the site out at least. I think that
Nice.
would be pretty.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. I'm actually I'm from Colorado, and then I moved to Northwest Arkansas. I moved out of that inflationary market. Again, going back to my sole focus being making people better than when you find them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are going on in Colorado that I don't agree with, and so our family moved to basically really get down to the roots and start focusing in Arkansas and building out. I primarily invest in Arkansas, Iowa, really the Midwest. That's primarily where we've been focusing our investment acquisition strategies. But going back to kind of how Jeremy and I met, we had a great conversation. I think Donaja Barnes was in that room too, but we had a great conversation, and just I'm excited to see what the future holds. So, yep.
A-
Whoop, whoop.
Absolutely. Now, what part of North Arkansas are you in?
So I'm in the cluster of cities up there in the top corner. So you've got Bentonville, Lowell, Centerton. You've got Fayetteville up in that top corner. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, so we recently just bought a property, which is obviously we're house hacking, like most investors are doing. There, we're house hacking, turning into a rental in a couple of years, but it's located in Lowell. Um, so that's where we're at.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, I actually was up in Bentonville last year for a benefit event. My former quarterback coach, he works with Walmart, and he has a really big golf tournament every year for leukemia benefits. So
Okay,
I am up that way every single year.
you
So
always got to
next
think
time,
Walmart when you talk Bentonville. You
man,
always
you have to,
you have
right?
to.
And that's so. And a funny story, man. He actually was the best quarterback Bentonville ever had. And of course, when you got the Waltons looking at you from that perspective, they're gonna treat you like family. So he got in with them and was able to do some pretty cool stuff with them, pretty quick. So
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, up here in Bentonville, they actually have a Walmart museum,
What about a Target museum?
right? Funny story, real quick. Not to get off topic, but I was speaking to a couple people up here, with boots on the ground that we built here, and they have some pretty deep roots with what's going on in the kind of the direction that Northwest Arkansas is heading. But one of the stories is there was kind of a development that was being built where there was a bunch of Costco that bought land, and Walmart caught word of it and basically offered them a price that they couldn't refuse. And during the build, when one of the Costco's was developed, they demolished it and then made it a flat land.
is it still flat right now?
I'm not sure on the exact location, but it just goes to show. I mean, like you said, I mean, this is Walmart country around here, and they won't accept any of you Costco's.
Absolutely. I'm shocked they're still letting Kroger be a thing down there myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, guys, I am going to be closing this room out here in a couple minutes, man. This has been a really solid time to hang out with you guys, and appreciate everyone contributing because, man, these are what these rooms are all about, man. Just having fun and just to get to know each other because there are so many ways to where we can really team up, collaborate, because that's what it's all about is collaborating on this mission of affordable housing and being able to just create lodging, period. And that's where with with the mission that we've got, man, it's so big that we can't do it on our own. And man, I am just grateful that everyone came in today, and and that's where I just enjoy the conversation, and so I just again appreciate y'all coming in, hanging out with me this morning on a random Saturday morning with no plans whatsoever, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can just change lives. And if you guys haven't hit the link at the top of the room yet, do so that way we can go ahead and just check all the boxes. No big deal whatsoever as far as there's no obligation to it, just to check off the boxes for an ideal unit you may have in mind, and then that way we can go ahead and get that conversation started and make the most of our time on a call because I want to be able to help equip you, but also to help be able to arm you for what is to be expected. And that way you don't step in any unknown bear traps. So guys, I appreciate y'all coming in again. And man, I can't wait to see what happens. And so again, I appreciate y'all and I will catch y'all here soon.